I think what people have oftentimes a challenge imagining is how could an overarching power control all these little boxes, religions, political systems, parties, companies? And what does that power actually believe in? Because people wrongfully accuse certain religious groups of being in the overarching position of power, Judaism being at the top of that constantly. But the people of Jewish faith are just as much part of the same belief system perception trap that you have just described as any other religion. So, who or what is in the overarching position of power, and what do they believe in?
Well, I've always worked on the principle since I had my conscious awakening in 1990. But when I look back, I was awakening for a long time before that. It's just crashed in at that time. I've always worked on the principle of whatever I know, there's always more to know. And if you don't do that, then you make the major error of believing you've got it. When you think that everything that people are seeing now, watching this show or whatever they're doing, whatever they're seeing is a tiny band of frequency called visible light. It's ludicrous in its limitation. And that's all that people can see. And so infinity exists in the space I'm sitting in now. But what I call biological computer, I've been calling it that since the 1990s, is only programmed to decode a tiny band of frequency visually. That's all I can see. So on that basis alone, the idea that anyone has got it is ridiculous. What we're doing is not becoming awake. We're awakening, and thus we are getting it more and more if we explore. But it is enormous. So that principle of whatever I know, there's always more to know, has driven me since 1990 deeper and deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole. So in the early 90s, it was all about uncovering this global cult and how the politicians, the presidents, and the prime ministers are pawns and puppets of a force in the shadows dictating the direction of human society. So look at politicians, look at presidents, prime ministers. They're here today, gone tomorrow. They have a certain period and then they've gone, and then another lot come in. But whether it's party A or party B or party C, the direction of the world continues the same. Different parties may use different excuses, and they may use different rhetoric, and they may actually move in the direction of dystopia at different speeds, but they're all going in the same direction. So immediately, you can see that there is another force at work which is making this happen. And it's not here today, gone tomorrow. It's always here in its various levels. So then, and what has happened to me since 1990 is that a subject will come into my life, and then suddenly that subject is everywhere. Information about that subject is everywhere. It's like machine gun fire often. And so from about the mid-1990s, what came into my life, my research, and then machine gun fire, was that beyond this global cult is a non-human force that the cult is actually serving and works on behalf of in the human level of reality. And that this force takes many different forms in terms of what they look like, but the dominant one appears to be a reptilian form. And although there are reptilian and other non-human entities, very clearly, when you look at the evidence within the earth, the foundation of it all, the point from which it originates, is actually in another dimension of reality. And it's one that esoteric thinkers talk of describe as the astral dimension. Now, the astral dimension is in the same space that I'm sitting in now, and its lower levels are really, really close to human reality. And so when I look around this room, I can see within visible light form. I can see material form. I can see lights. I can see a computer. I can see a wall. I can see a door. I can see books behind me. But everything between those material forms is, to me, to my decoded sight, my limitation of sight, empty space. But it's not empty space. It's sharing the same space as infinity. So it's the same principle, exactly the same principle as the analog television and radio systems, where radio stations are sharing the same space as all the others, but they're on different wavelengths, so they don't interfere with each other unless they're very close on the dial. So if you are on, if you've got a radio and you tune it to radio A, then you get radio A. You don't get radio B, C, D. You get radio A. But you move the dial, you tune it in to radio B, and now you've got radio B. But radio A hasn't ceased to broadcast just because you've moved from it. It's going on broadcasting in the same space that radio B is. And this is how these different dimensions of reality work. So if I'm watching, if I'm observing through the unbelievable limitations of visible light, and something enters from, say, the astral dimension, it enters visible light, it lowers its frequency, because this is a real density, this place. It enters the frequency of visible light. To me, to the observer, it's appeared out of nowhere. And when it leaves visible light, increases its frequency, it appears to disappear into nowhere. And so you have these people, these witnesses who say, oh, I saw this UFO, it appeared out of nowhere and then disappeared into nowhere. Or I saw this entity, it appeared at the end of my bed out of nowhere and then disappeared into nowhere. And of course, to the normal mind, founded on scientific orthodoxy or religious belief, will say that's ridiculous, that's impossible. Because one of the greatest ways that humans are kept in the perceptual box is squeezing their sense of the possible. This is why the suppression of information and the almost criminal limitations of scientific orthodoxy keep information from people. And, you know, if you have a scientific orthodoxy where you progress within it and you get the titles and you get the prestige of advancing to always a scientific genius, then you've got to parrot the orthodoxy. So even scientists are kept in the orthodoxy, those that don't have a backbone and an inquiring mind, because it suits them. It's best for their career if they do that. And you look at the education system and its scientific orthodoxy that is given to the kids through their formative years, and so you squeeze the sense of the possible in the public mind. So when somebody like me comes along or you come along and say, actually, this is how they do it, and this is what they're doing, this is how they do it, and this is actually how reality really works, then the scientifically orthodoxy program mind says that's ridiculous, that's impossible, that's pseudoscience. And so you if you squeeze people's sense of the possible, you'll keep them in ignorance of actually what is possible. And there was that great quote, was a guy called Schopenhauer who talked about paraphrasing that people mistake the limits of possibility for the limits of their own mind. And that's exactly what the squeezing of orthodoxy is all about. So you therefore have this astral dimension sharing the same space as this human dimension, but it's on a different wavelength, which is why we don't see it in the same way as we see this one. And so as I went on questioning, okay, I think I got this, but what don't I know? I came to the next level, which is that this reality and the astral reality are part of a systematically constructed fake reality.
Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy, but most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.